Hey everyone, today we're going to talk about the Starling equation. It's also known as the net fluid flux equation. And essentially it helps us understand fluid movement across capillary bed membranes. And if you understand this equation, you can essentially apply it to every capillary bed in the body to understand the net movement of fluid. So if we draw our capillary bed here, and on the left you've got the arterial side, and on the right you've got the venous side. And in the center, the connection between them is the capillary bed. And this is the equation at the top, and it's Kf, which means filtration coefficient, in brackets, the hydrostatic pressure of the capillary, which is outwards, minus the hydrostatic pressure of the interstitial fluid, which is inwards. Then you minus the reflection coefficient, represented by this O-looking symbol, brackets, oncotic pressure capillaries, which is pressure that draws fluid into the capillaries, minus the oncotic pressure interstitium, which is oncotic pressure that draws fluid out of the capillaries into the interstitium. So let's break this down further and talk about the filtration coefficient. So the filtration coefficient is quite complex, but it essentially is surface area times the hydrostatic permeability. So in the capillary bed, you have a high surface area, and the more surface area is, the more fluid will be able to move outside of the capillary or move into the capillary, depending on which way the equation goes. And things physiologically that could affect this, if you think about, say, your kidneys, if you have a nephrectomy, your surface area for your glomerular filtration, which you can apply this to the capillary beds in the glomerulus, is halved. So surface area is halved. And then hydrostatic permeability represents how permeable these membranes are to fluid or to water. And so an example of this in pathology would be in septic patients, or when there's inflammation, when the capillary walls are leaky, you're going to get localized inflammation, or in sepsis, you're going to get more leaky capillaries anyway, so more fluid will leak out of capillaries and lead to edema. So then we move on to the green part of our equation, which represents the net movement of hydrostatic pressures, or the hydrostatic pressure overall throughout the capillary. So P cap represents the hydrostatic pressure inside the capillary, which is pushing out. And at the arterial end, because it's a more high pressure system, you have more hydrostatic pressure, so a higher P cap. And throughout the length of the capillary bed, it decreases as we get to the venous end, which is a low pressure system. There's always a bit of pressure from the interstitium that pushes inwards. And so an example would be for your P cap, if you've got venous congestion, you're going to have higher capillary hydrostatic pressure as blood is backed up into the capillary beds. And then for your P interstitium, so this is the hydrostatic pressure in the interstitium, think about if you use compression bandages, you're going to be able to increase that pressure and push more fluid into the vein or into the capillary bed, which helps with edema, which we know is something we do in reality to help with swelling of joints and limbs. So then we minus the reflection coefficient and the oncotic pressures. So to talk about reflection coefficient, this represents how easily solutes and proteins can cross the membrane. So this is different to your hydrostatic permeability. And the example I'll use is, say, in the kidneys, where the glomerular basement membrane has a negative charge, which repels albumin, which also has a negative charge, even though albumin could potentially slip through those capillary beds as well. Now, the reflection coefficient essentially adjusts the oncotic pressure equation, which comes next to the capillary beds. So, for example, 0, if you times that oncotic pressure by 0, essentially it's saying that the oncotic pressures have no significance in this equation, meaning that the capillary bed is so leaky that proteins are just going in and out of the capillaries that oncotic pressure doesn't really matter. And an example of this would be the liver sinusoids. While if you times it by 1, what it's saying is that there's not much permeability or non-permeability, and the oncotic pressures actually matter here. And the examples here would be in the glomerulus. So in the kidneys, it's pathological to be leaking protein into the filtrate and losing it through urine. And another example would be the blood-brain barrier, because you don't want proteins just leaking in and out of the blood-brain barrier. So as we move from left to right along the capillary membrane, because of the hydrostatic pressures, you actually lose fluid out of the capillary bed as you move towards the venous end. And this concentrates the oncotic pressure inside the capillaries, as there's less fluid compared to the solutes and oncotic proteins. So what you find is that the oncotic pressure inside the capillary is less at the arterial end and more at the venous end, meaning that it draws more water in towards the venous end, which is in contrast to that hydrostatic pressure, which pushes more water out at the arterial end compared to the venous end. The interstitial fluid has some oncotic pressure as well, but it's usually pretty stable throughout. But again, this depends on the reflection coefficient and how much protein is actually leaking in and out. But generally it is pretty stable and doesn't contribute much to the equation. So this essentially leaves us with the equation, which is the net fluid flux equation, or Starling equation, which is your filtration coefficient in brackets, hydrostatic pressure capillary minus hydrostatic pressure interstitium in closed brackets, minus your reflection coefficient times in brackets your oncotic pressure inside the capillary minus your oncotic pressure in the interstitium.